Welcome. Today we'll explore some of the announcements at Ignite concerning the GCC update for the availability of M365 Copilot, agents, actions, and a whole lot more. For more information about today's program, make sure you check out the Book of News and other useful links located throughout this presentation at the end of the useful links slide as well. So with me today, I have Matt Barger, Pierre-Yves Delacote, Bill Beener, Jim E. Briggs, Scott Derby, and they're all going to give us some updates on their various areas, and they're ready to answer your questions in the chat, so please feel free to do that. I'm sure you'll recognize these guys from some of our past office hour sessions, or possibly the You Already Own It workshops, or maybe even a Copilot engagement that we've done for you. So thanks for everyone for being here. Well, at Ignite, with all the announcements in some shape or form, Microsoft is working to empower their customers, partners, developers to thrive in the area of AI. There were over 100 news announcements made at this event, all touching on multiple layers of Microsoft's AI forward strategy for adoption to productivity and security. It's hard to believe just 1 year ago that Copilot and Teams Premium were announced, and everyone was getting ready to make the move to new teams. Also announced last year was SharePoint Premium, and today we're going to talk about the updates to these products since then. Also announced a year ago was Loop, and it's truly amazing how far it has come, and we now are talking about it with Copilot Pages. More about that later in the presentation. So let's get started. With all the announcements, and the themes were a Copilot for everyone, and we see that with the new agents in BizChat. If you don't know those terms yet, we'll talk about them. Next is data is the fuel that empowers AI. And with that is how do we protect our data and what tools can we use to secure, monitor, measure, and adopt Copilot? Next is Copilot is the UI for AI. This is a big one. This all starts with BizChat and agents and the new Copilot pages. Finally, 2025 will be the year of agents, and we will talk about how and where you can use these new agents. First, the long-awaited announcement of Microsoft 365 availability in GCC. Phase 1 availability for Microsoft Copilot in GCC was announced on December 13th. So we'd love to do a quick poll. If you bought some licenses, we'd love to see you answer the poll. And if you've actually been using them in a GCC environment, we'd love to hear about it. First, let me stress that if you're going to buy Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's a journey, and it could take about 8 to 12 weeks to get ready. These licenses are an investment, and we want to make sure you get the ROI you're looking for. Microsoft says, besides technical and content readiness, 70% of the work is organizational readiness, training, and ongoing proactive adoption work that will need to be done. Planet is here to help you with your journey wherever you are, so if you need some help, please reach out. We'll be glad to talk to you. So included in this announcement for GCC was BizChat, right? And this is a new term for some, but it's a central hub that brings together all of your data right in the flow of your work. This AI-powered chat feature leverages your organization's M365 data to provide personalized, relevant information and insights directly within your chat experience. Next up, Microsoft 365 is included in phase 1. So these are all your Office apps where the Copilot is built right into the app. Copilot Outlook, again, very helpful for streamlining email, calendar management, drafting responses, summarizing email threads, suggesting meeting times. I use that one a lot myself, and actually booking sessions. Teams, chat, and channel Copilot. This is big, right? So integrated into AI, your daily team interactions, summarizing threads, helping manage conversations with contextual awareness. And the long-awaited intelligent meeting cap. You don't need Teams Premium. If you have an M365 Copilot, this is included, right? So automatically capturing those key points from the meeting with important policy discussions or public hearings, or capturing crucial details about the meeting, recapping the feature generates a comprehensive summary of your meetings, including key points, action items, and decisions made. And I can tell you firsthand, it's a very accurate situation there that it produces. Phase 2 is slated for about the April timeframe. We don't have an exact date, but we're hearing April. This second phase will introduce Copilot in additional services to further streamline the workflows. The biggest one here is the ability to interact with Teams meeting Copilot. And why this one's different than the first one I mentioned is this one actually allows you to record meetings without possibly the transcript. Maybe you don't want the transcript. Some people have asked for that. Or ask questions while you're actually in the meeting itself, right? So like, let's say you get there 10 minutes late and you need to catch up. We'll say, hey, summarize what's happened so far so I know what's been discussed so far. So that's very helpful. And then finally, Loop, there's among all the other announcements there you can read on the screen, but finally Loop is going to be available in GCC, and we're excited about that as well. So in the holiday theme, let's talk about some things I saw that are on the naughty list, in my opinion. Of course, Microsoft always rebrands things, and this was no different year. They rebranded some AI services, and with that comes some confusion, right? So hopefully we can sort some of that out today. I mentioned these by name because they're going to be possibly some confusing things here. So Bing Chat became Bing Chat Enterprise Chat, became Copilot, is now Biz Chat. And we'll talk in more details about these. Copilot Labs is now Copilot Prompt Gallery. Commercial data protection is now Enterprise Data Protection. Azure AI Foundry formerly was called Azure OpenAI Studio. And finally, there's some logo and name changes for Copilot and M365 apps. First, let's talk about Biz Chat. Think about it as the new UI and the new name for Copilot and where users with Copilot licenses will start working to get their tasks done. Do you remember Bing Chat? It all started with Bing Chat, then Enterprise Chat, then Copilot finally became Biz Chat. So that's what I'm talking about here. It's the center of the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Depending on whether you are licensed for M365 Biz Chat or not, or Copilot M365, depends on what you see in this user interface. Licensed users will have a tab across the top to select grounding of their prompts in work data or web data. Licensed users will also get access to Microsoft Pages and creating agents, Copilot agents. You'll also notice that BizChat access is everywhere in M365 apps, and in the apps themselves, the browser, Office.com, Outlook, and Teams has icons built right into it as well. Selecting the Work tab grounds BizChat Copilot in your M365 data, for your files, your Teams meetings, and the LLM. By the way, the first wave of GCC rollout will have live web grounding turned off by default, so that's just a heads up. Now, if you don't have a license, you can still go to copilot.microsoft.com, or you may even find it on your PC, but you won't see that Work tab on the top of your screen. And if you have an Entra ID, you can log into BizChat and you'll still be protected by Enterprise Data Protection. BizChat honors your security already in place with Enterprise Data Protection for prompts and responses. So if you're signed in with Entra ID, MS grounds that prompts and responses, protecting your data with the same security that you already have in place. What you'll notice here is the new user interface for BizChat. And I have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, so this is what you would see if you actually had a license. A couple things I want to point out here quickly is that you see the tab across the top. There's a Work tab and a Web tab. So there's a slider depending on where you want the response to come from. Here you'll have the ability to create agents, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But there's actually a create an agent capability as well as the ability to edit some of your created agents. You see here that I created one called Ken's Class Agent. And then finally over here, again, this is becoming the central user interface for Copilot and how you get work done is the new Pages, Copilot Pages application. So right here is how you get access to Copilot Pages as well as some of these other capabilities here in getting apps. Next up, logos. And, so I'm not sure what to say about this, but Microsoft is changing the Copilot logo and the Microsoft 365 apps to Microsoft 365 Copilot, regardless of whether you own a Copilot license or not. So you'll now see this Microsoft 365 wording on the end here on the right side on all logos eventually. And this is going to cause some confusion, I'm sure, because people will be like, I don't own M365 Copilot. Why does that logo have it on there? And it's going to replace all the logos for M365 apps. So just a heads up that this is coming. Another new change is Copilot Labs, which is now Copilot Prompt Gallery. Here you can create, discover, share prompts, and like them. You can even save your own prompts here, and you can bookmark them for future use. This library provides collection of pre-designed prompts serving as templates to expedite your prompts in the future. It also accelerates development and ensures best practices are followed when you're doing prompt engineering. You can modify templates here that suit your needs. And so it's just a really great place to centralize your prompts moving forward, really. And you can bookmark them for future access. That's kind of it in a nutshell. But it's if you're just getting started with Copilot, it's invaluable to check out these prompts. So it gives you some great ideas and inspiration. Agents. Now let's move on to the nice list. These are the items that will have large impact on your M365 Copilot and AI plans for 2025. Like I said earlier, it's hard to believe Copilot is now 1 year old. Agents are now the new kids on the block, and they're getting lots of attention. Microsoft announced agents and AI actions to automate tasks and enhance productivity. Copilot agents can assist users in various roles, can provide relevant and targeted content by connecting to your organization's knowledge and data sources, as well as automating and executing business processes using new Copilot actions, which we'll talk about next. Setting up an agent could be as easy as one click, and we'll talk about how that works. There are also some new use case agents that Pierre Yves is going to talk about in a few slides, so we'll save on that topic there for another slide there. You can also extend the capability of 365 Copilot using connectors with plugins, so that can do either one-way or two-way pulls of that data to third-party systems like ServiceNow and others. These new connectors and plugins will enable you to customize your Copilot experience to fit your specific needs. Other items we'll talk about here are Copilot actions, which we're going to have a whole slide on, but basically they automate your everyday repetitive tasks. Think of these as Para Automate for your prompts. And then finally, the new Copilot control system, which I'm pretty excited about, which will help IT professionals to manage Copilot and agents securely and drive adoption and measure your ROI for your Copilot deployments. We'll talk about that in a few slides here. So first up, Copilot agents. Let's highlight two of these agents specifically. Again, PY is going to talk about some of the others, but the ones I want to talk about are the SharePoint agents and Copilot agents. Think of these agents as the new apps for an AI-powered world. They're both similar in that they can connect to Copilot Studio easily through the new user interface for agent creation and modification. Both agents access your organization's content the same way Copilot and other M365 apps do, responding to prompts based on their access permissions to the data. You can connect up to 20 data sources per agent. So SharePoint agents are built in SharePoint and you can start off as a Teams channel, and then you can open up SharePoint and then create a SharePoint agent from that Teams channel in that Teams channel. But they do have some limitations currently, and I've been messing around with this for about 2 weeks, so they're kind of interesting. Every SharePoint site now has a ready-made SharePoint agent, and the key there is ready-made. There's two types of SharePoint agents, ready-made and Copilot agents. Literally, the ready-made agents are created every time a SharePoint site is created or a channel is created. However, so ready-made and created agents are the two that I want to talk about. Ready-made agents are the ones that are pre-built to the site, and then basically the first time you create an agent on that site, it creates a ready-made agent. And it has some limitations, like you can't edit the agent after you create it, and you can't share the agent after you create it. So if you really want to do those things, to share it with your team members, you really need to create a Copilot agent, which are created beyond the first time you create the agent for the site. I know this is getting a lot complicated, but I just want to make sure you realize that there's two kinds of agents in SharePoint, and it's very complicated and not too streamlined yet. And the user interfaces between the Copilot agents and the SharePoint agents are different. I understand Microsoft is trying to work on the user interface for both of these UIs, and hopefully we'll see that change in the future. Once you create the agent, you can actually send that agent in either Teams or email, only the Copilot agents, not the SharePoint agents. So that's, just want to let you know that this is what's going on. If there's a special offer right now by Microsoft, if you buy 50 licenses by January 6th, your organization has to have at least 50 licenses. Any employee in your organization will be able to create, share, and interact with SharePoint agents. So you'll get up to 10,000 queries per month for free up until June 30th. So if you're interested in that, I have a link in the useful links section at the very end of the session. But right now, if you want to use Copilot agents or SharePoint agents, you have to be a licensed Microsoft 365 Copilot user, and both you as the creator and people as the users of that agent have to also have a Microsoft 365 license or a consumption model to bill for those queries. So what they're saying is after January 6th, they're going to allow that ability for free if you have at least 50 licenses for a short period of time to get started. Okay, So here's what a SharePoint agent looks like to get started really quick. And this is not a tutorial by any means. You'll notice when you open up SharePoint, you see create an agent. You'll notice that in the side panel here, this is where you're going to start seeing BizChat or the agents start working in. You can see that I created my own agent. This one with the check mark is the ready-made one that comes included with the actual SharePoint site. And then I created a second one here that can do things to share with my classmates, for instance. You'll also notice that I created some pre-built prompts here, which is kind of cool in the creation of the agent process. Now, editing an agent is different based on whether you're doing a SharePoint agent or a Copilot agent. But what I wanted to show you here is editing an agent in SharePoint. There's just minimal capabilities here. Again, you can select up to 20 sources here to choose to connect to your agent. So you have some description capabilities, the sources, and then how you want the agent to behave. And so, those are the three capabilities you have, as well as, in the behavior section, you can set up your pre-built prompts and things like that. Now, in Copilot agents, again, this is BizChat, right? So remember, this is the universal interface for AI for Microsoft now. You see the Copilot. You see I can create an agent right here. If you don't see this side window, it's because you don't have that little button right there pushed. And so you'll be like, where is it? That's where it is. Copilot Studio right here is how you actually modify and configure agents from an ongoing perspective. And eventually what I'm understanding from Microsoft is that both SharePoint and Copilot agents will both use Copilot Studio. This is a light version of Copilot Studio. It's not like you don't need to be a developer. As you can see, it's very user-friendly on this interface. Again, getting to some of these things, how to edit them, how to find them is a little bit confusing right now as Microsoft works out the user interface issues between SharePoint agents and Copilot agents. Next, let's move on to Copilot Actions. Unfortunately, I can't show much about this since it's still in private preview and I don't have access. But I have researched it, and I think to get the full idea of this, check out that link on the bottom of the page, and you'll get a great idea of how these agents can be used, as well as this YouTube video up top. But basically, from what I've seen, think of them as digital employees who never sleep, never complain, and improve every single day. So Copilot Actions automate everyday tasks it's like a fill-in-the-blank temp prompt that you can set and forget. For example, you can automatically receive summary of your most important actions items at the end of each workday and then have them mail off to somebody. So they're not just a simple prompt where you get you question and get a response. Boom. This is more, right? So it's taking that prompt and then creating an action after that to do something with it. So basically you have a template to fill in, kind of like Mad Libs. Who remembers Mad Libs, right? Where you fill in the blanks? Exactly like that. So the first use case of actions will be template based. Eventually they'll become customized and you can build them from scratch. But basically you fill out the different values and then you get an action. These are like intelligent prompts or a series of prompts linked together so you can automate, repeat, and then sequence different activities with Copilot. Think of them as an easier interface to power automate. So what we're seeing here, folks, is agents are going to start combining together. You're going to start creating apps out of agents. So this is going to really change the way, low code is going to work in the future and how you start interacting with your content data and actually start building like automation into the way you work, right? So like one of the examples I saw is to take a project template and then a project set of users, and then basically it just mashes them together and then actually creates the new project plan right from scratch and then emails it out to everybody for weekly updates and things like that. So there's lots of capabilities here. Again, it's more than just a prompt and a response. It's a prompt response plus an action, which is pretty cool. So no doubt, Copilot is Microsoft's user interface. And how do admins control, manage, and measure these agents and the Copilot experience? Well, Microsoft announced the Copilot control system, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. This reminds me of a little bit, I used to be an admin. I used to be a service owner for a large state. And I had to roll out Power Platform many years ago. This is very reminiscent of the early days of how Power Platform was rolled out and how we got more and more tooling as we went along to manage this new system, right? Well, the good news is the Copilot control system is essentially that, right? It's a set of tools for monitoring adoption, data access, governance, and security controls. Unfortunately, right now, they're still not under one interface, but I think we're going to get there with Microsoft eventually. But the good news is they got all areas covered, right? They've got the data protection covered, they got the management controls covered, and then finally the measurement controls. So again, these are very expensive resources, these licenses, and we want to make sure that you have the tooling in place to do all these things, right? So under data protection, things like setting up permissions and policies and including retention and sensitive labels. Under management controls and tenant-wide settings, you can do granular controls over who can access and create agents. And then also management of agent lifecycle and data connections. So again, very reminiscent of the Power Platform administration backend. Same things you're going to need. But what this also does is add a level of measurement, right? So things like usage metrics and business impact reports are going to now be included. And so it's basically three tools, right? It's the SharePoint Advanced Management, which the big announcement at Microsoft was this is now included for free. Last year, there was a cost. It was kind of broken up into two capabilities. There was the forms processing part, and then there was the administration or management part. The administration management part of SharePoint Advanced Management is now included for free. So with that, you're going to get data access governance features, so you can filter overshared files. You can provide site access reviews, identify at-risk content, restrict access control by policy to prevent unauthorized access. Again, the SAM is now going to be included for free, and they're looking at early 2025, and I think in GCC in the April timeframe. So SAM is not only helpful for the rollout of Copilot, but it's also going to be helpful for ongoing monitoring of your content to help govern and protect your environments. Next up is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. As soon as you get Copilot licenses, this lights up to have available capabilities to protect your Copilot content. So there's management controls, including controls over which users can use the Copilot agents, as well as the visibility of the agent status and lifecycle. And then there's also some measurement capabilities in the admin center, but I fully expect all the measurement stuff will move into one user interface eventually, because right now the measurement capabilities are kind of duplicated in two different places. They provide different capabilities, but there is measurement capabilities and ROI capabilities in two different places. So Copilot Dashboard was announced, and which is going to help with tracking adoption and ROI. This includes Viva Insights and Copilot Analytics. The big news here is Microsoft announced that Viva Insights will now be included in your Copilot license at no additional charge as part of the new Copilot Analytics solution. So now you're getting SAM for free. You're getting Copilot Analytics for free. Well, I don't say free. It's getting more value out of that Copilot license, so you can actually do things with those licenses as far as keeping adoption and ROI capabilities. These tools allow the business leaders in IT to adopt patterns to maximize the return on investment for these Copilot agents and Copilots. What else is important to note here? There's going to be a business impact report that's built into analytics as well, which is going to help with measuring KPIs and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So in summary, Copilot Analytics will help your organization measure adoption and business impact of Copilot and agents in your organizations. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Pierre-Yves Delacote, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what's new in Copilot. PY?
Thank you, Ken. You almost cover everything, so that's perfect. So AI agents and AI actions obviously are going to be a big thing. I'm playing with AI agents today. This is tremendous because even if it's a little bit tricky, it's still at the level of end user, and you can create very, very easily Copilot agents and SharePoint agents. What I want to add is the SharePoint agents as something more than the Copilot agent is that you can publish it into Teams and then use it as a person. You just add it to a chat, and then you can converse and discuss with this agent. So you, in middle of a chat, you can add this agent and ask a question. For example, if your SharePoint agent was to check what is the HR policy, surfacing HR documents, then you can put in a chat and ask questions to directly, just like if you were talking to HR, but you're talking to SharePoint actually. So that's pretty cool. And Microsoft also is going to release pre-canned agents. There's a facilitator agent that's going to take notes for you in a meeting. So it's the same thing. It's going to be a new person in the meeting. It's going to be called facilitator agent, and it's going to take notes, and you're going to have all the notes listed or in the meeting notes directly, and it's going to do everything for you. You can even ask questions to the facilitator agent, a little bit like you do it now with Copilot. There's going to be a project manager agent in Planner. We didn't see much about it, but it's supposed to do the planning for you. For the project manager, it's going to be transformative. There's going to be also a self-service agent for HR and IT task. We don't know much about it, but basically it's pre-canned common features, probably for onboarding people and managing tickets. Probably we don't know much, but it's going to be also released by Microsoft, and you'll be able to modify it, adjust it to your environment. SharePoint agent, I told you what it is. The most impressive agent for me was the interpreter agent, and as you might hear my little French accent, this feature is just awesome. The preview is just awesome. I just want to see it real in a real life environment. But the goal of this agent is, as a user, if you have a Copilot license, you can use this interpreter agent to translate live in the language you want what people are saying with their own voice. So basically, how it works is it's just like I was listening to Ken, and suddenly I decide to turn this interpreter agent on to translate in French, and now magically, so Ken's still talking, but his voice is faded, and now I have a French voice that is talking to me, and Ken magically talks in French, and the demonstrations are just impressive. I don't know if you put a link on one of those demonstrations, but they're just impressive.
I did take 3 years of French in high school, by the way.
Then there's other maybe minor features that are coming to Copilot, but I think they're interesting. There's more artifacts in Copilot pages. So you can ask, in the Biz chat, you can ask to create mind maps or some sort of mind maps. I don't know what they don't call it like that, but you have an example of the screen capture. There's also Python that is used to do that. So you can build graphic directly in the Copilot Biz chat. You don't have to go in Excel to do that. And it's going to be, I don't know if you're using Copilot pages today, but today it's tied to a session of prompt, and in the future you will be able to have different sessions and put the result of, because the Copilot page concept is to gather information from your prompt, so you can put them somewhere. Actually, it's a loop component, and then you can share that with people who don't have Copilot, and so they get the result of your prompt. They don't have access to Copilot, but they have the result of the prompt. And the limitation today is that it's only for one session of prompt. Now, in the future, you'll be able to do multiple sessions of prompt and put the same result, in one page. There's a very also impressive feature for, when you need to translate content in several languages. I know Spanish is a thing in the US, and there's a PowerPoint translation, which doesn't break the formatting, the layout of the PowerPoint. And there were some demonstration where they translated in I think it was Chinese or Japanese, I'm not sure, but and the layout was not broken, so that's really impressive. If you need to translate PowerPoint presentation, I hope they will do that for Word too, but for now it's going to be PowerPoint. It's impressive, and it saves you time and cost. You're going to be able to, in PowerPoint today, you cannot, in one slide, you have to reprompt to recreate the slide if you want to change the text. And now you're going to be able to do that directly just like you do that in Word, and rewrite the content of one slide. And the Copilot agents are available in Word and PowerPoint for the web. Not yet for the desktop, but that means you can build an agent, for example, to proofread documents based on some standards that you built or using. I know the federal government provides some guidance on how to write content for federal agencies. And so you can use that to say in Word, check and make some recommendation directly using the Copilot agent that does it. There's going to be also a feature to prioritize your emails and also to pre-read your email. So you're gonna see when you receive an email, you're gonna see a line explaining. It's not just the subject that interests you; it's the content. So it's going to be a very short summary of the meaning of the email, so that can save you time. You're going to be able to schedule from Copilot 1.1 and focus time. And what's interesting also, one of the difference with ChatGPT is when you're prompting in ChatGPT, you don't know what sources you used to generate the prompt, to generate the result. So when you're going to do that in Word and create a content in Word by prompting with Copilot in Word, it's going to cite the sources that he used to create the content in your Word document. That's pretty cool. And the final thing is a Copilot Coach in Word. So when you're writing when you're writing a Word document, instead of just rewrite the paragraph, you can ask Copilot, coach me to tell me if I draft this content correctly. A little bit like in Outlook today. So there's a big news. I think I hope that you heard about it because this is coming soon. I already have it in our tenant. Some of us have access to it in our tenant. It's still in preview, I think, but there's a new team experience for channel and chat. This is very transformative. That's going to be very disruptive for a lot of users. So I really encourage you to prepare and be on the watch for that and prepare your users. You can reverse it to the old version. So there's still room, but by default, it's going to be the new experience, or at least the user are going to be asked if they want to enable it. And so there's no, as you can see in this screenshot, there's not going to be any Teams icon. Everything will be under chat. And it's very controversial. I know that a lot of people are not satisfied with that change. I can tell you from my perspective, and it's because I'm leading the change management team, and so we like change. And if you understand well the philosophy of this new experience, you take advantage. I have a factor 2 of productivity with the new experience, but it takes time for a lot of people because usually most of the people don't like to change. So it's a way to segment your chat, your channels, your meetings. You can regroup them in sections. So here you see an example where I create in my own environment, I create a section with my day-to-day team, so people I'm interacting with the most, and channels that are really important for me. I have another section called active projects where I store all my active projects channels. So I don't want to find my project, and I have more than 100 teams, so it's very hard for me. So I can centralize everything I want in one section called active project. Also, since I manage a team, I'm also add my team's project to see the channels that where my team are working. And then you have your chats. I create a pre-sales section where I have all the channels and chat and meetings that are connected to pre-sales. And you have your favorite also, and you also still have your teams and channels under it. So it's saving, to me, it's saving a huge amount of time. And my favorite feature is the unread feature. So I can filter in one click wherever there's a notification, even if it's an activity, if it's a chat, if it's a meeting, if I miss something, I just want to click unread, and I see all the things that I've missed and that I need to read. So it's very transformative from my point of view, but very disruptive.
Yeah, I would definitely say agree with that. I've gotten a couple calls from some commercial customers, and it happened to me too, right? Like I came in one day, Teams had updated, and my channels and chats were all mixed together in one. I went crazy looking for the Teams icon. It wasn't there. Now you can put it back, but again, this takes time to learn and rethink how you work. So like he says, it's kind of disruptive, but prepare your users because it's coming.
Yeah, and other maybe minor news. There's a Teams VDI optimization, so maybe you want to look at it. The Team Facilitator agent, I talked about it. Interpreter, I talked about it. There's a live recap in multiple languages. So, today in Teams, if you have Teams Premium, if there are several languages that are used in a meeting, it's going to be confusing to have a recap. And also, if you want a recap to be in your own language, you cannot do that. So it's going to be available in the future. Also, an interesting feature when you have Teams Rooms. It's one person. It's a room. And now there's a feature that can see who is speaking and tell, in the transcript, tell who has spoke in a room. So that's a nice feature that enabled by AI too. There's also a nice thing, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it, is you can send an email verification for external participants just to be sure the people you invited are the ones that are attending the meeting. And so they have to log in to the meeting through that email. And there's other security enhancements. I don't remember exactly what they were, but there's a list, I think, at the end of the slide deck. And you'll be able also to delegate Teams administration to local units for a large organization. That can be useful, for example, to manage Teams room locally. That was a high demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, PY.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt's going to take over now,
Yeah.
right, Matt, on Copilot Pages. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for coming on the program. Talk to us about Copilot Pages.
Yeah, Ken, I think this is by far my favorite feature that came out that I've been using the past couple weeks. Is that
Cool.
For me, it's the ultimate AI Copilot integration into a product so far. As you mentioned, Copilot hit a year. Or I'm sorry, Microsoft Loop hit a year, and now they've added Copilot into it in probably one of the best ways. So this is, for me, Loop is a product that's slowly replacing OneNote. I've never been happy with OneNote, how it kind of lays things out or how I organize and use it. So I've actually been using Loop more and more.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what's great about this is you can see here on the left is that you can still have all your typical interactions and conversations with Copilot, but a lot of times is what you're outputting and producing, you need to collaborate with it. Or even for me is you need that persistent location of storing the outputs of your prompts, right? There's only so much history on the right-hand side that you can see inside a Copilot. And this really helps me to, kind of work through with Copilot through something and materialize it into a page that I can share here.
What you just said made a lot of sense. Like I was thinking, like if I was doing a bunch of prompting and collecting that information, where would I put it? Typically, I'd throw it in OneNote, and then they would have no context anymore, right? This allows you to have that running context going, right? And I think that's eye-opening.
Yeah, and I've even picked it up, right? Sometimes at night you come down, you kind of have this aha moment, and you kind of go down to work, and you need to, kind of get some assistance from Copilot, and but you're not ready to process what it output. This is a good way to kind of pin or put them in a note. And the cool thing about this is that Microsoft is starting to build sort of these workspaces, and Loop components were stored all over 365, and these Loop components are stored in a personalized SharePoint embed workspace. So it's almost like a OneDrive area that is per person. So it inherits all your existing security controls, everything that is in place inside your tenant, and private first, and then you have the ability to share it out, based on all your organizational policies and controls. So very cool feature. I really like this one the best so far.
Especially for collaboration, absolutely. It's like the next generation of collaboration. To me, it's like, Teams was very disruptive, a way of new working for me. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is going to be really hard to understand and work in this new environment. I think Pages is going to be similar, but I think once you get a handle on Pages, I think it's going to be very powerful.
Yeah, I think this is like where it supercharges that highly collaborative environment that Teams started, right?
Yep.
Yes, you can chat back and forth, but being able to drop Loop components in there that maybe have been authored by Copilot first and allow people to, collaboratively write together so much better than just seeing a whole bunch of chats that you then have to coalesce and pilfer through and put into, another piece of work.
All right, I think let's go on because we're running a little bit tight on time here. Let's talk about Microsoft Places. Now, this may not be for everybody if you're 100% remote, but if you're like many places that got hybrid work, or you're still working, or if you're working in the office, that's really where this comes in, right, Matt?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're realizing, that the call to return to office is varying across the board as remote work existed before COVID. So, this is really a tiered level product from Microsoft that allows you to, facilitate that return to work, whether it's fully return to work or, some mixture of remote and in office time. So, the first thing here, just getting ready for this is really built on, we already did new Teams. Everybody make that hop and they're all over into the new Teams application. New Outlook is a product that you really want to, look at to deploy to take advantage of this. And as you can see in this icon here, there's things such as being able to designate if you're in the office or out of the office for the day, your ability to assist with Copilot to understand, if I'm making a trip into the office, that maybe these other people may want to shift their days of in office and be in the office at the same time so we can have a meeting. And then, once we need a meeting and schedule it, then it can help us to find, a desk, a room, an office space, and even handle some of
especially on those shared resources, things like
yeah.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I just want to mention here is that it's tiered, right? There's going to be core capabilities that you can do with your existing investment in M365, and it's only going to get better whenever you layer on some of the Teams premium capabilities. And then, of course, Copilot then makes it even better with additional capabilities with this product. But it is going to be a new product. It's going to be an app inside of Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, like making suggestions like John, Mary, and Joe are going into the office on the 18th. You may want to consider it as well. That kind of stuff. Like that's where the AI starts coming into this as well. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your time, and thanks for the quick updates. All right, Mr. Jimmy Briggs, I guess you're up. Talk to us about Azure AI Foundry and Power Platform updates, and we've got about 15 minutes.
Yep, I'm going to go real fast here too. Yep. Yeah, so we should be pretty good. Real quick on this slide about Azure AI Foundry. This is the next evolution of the workspace for Azure OpenAI. So in the past, there was Azure OpenAI Studio, and really the Foundry is going to replace that and add a lot more capability and functionality among teams for collaboration, as well as provide containers to compartmentalize a lot of solutions, which are being rolled out as projects. Very similar to how we saw the Power Virtual Agent Design Center be rebranded and restyled twice for Copilot Studio, and it's now in kind of its close to final form, hopefully. The Foundry is another iteration of a design suite used to really improve and take a lot of learnings from what Microsoft has learned from the past with Azure OpenAI Studio and kind of bring in a lot of requested feedback and enhancements to make that more feature-rich and fully functional. And it's free to use, so pricing is evaluated during deployments of whatever models or agents that you're going to build for Azure OpenAI solutions. But the Studio itself, the Azure Foundry, you can get in and use for free. And then additionally, I went in and was playing around with it for free. And there is a free tier on the standard subscription for the GPT-4o mini model. So if you wanted to get into a sandbox and play around with a direct access directly with a model like ChatGPT, you can do that using both of these in conjunction. Another nice thing to touch on real quick that comes with the Foundry is Microsoft has redone and kind of updated, rolled out an SDK that's available in CLI and in Python, and it'll embed itself in Visual Studio. So developers who are making highly custom or complex solutions with AI services with Azure OpenAI using Azure Foundry, they can interact with both their projects and all of those resources directly with command line, either in Bash or in Python scripts using the new SDK that's being rolled out.
Okay.
We can jump to our next slide there. Yeah, for sure. We'll jump into Power Platform real quick. Sorry, Ken, did you have something to add on that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
All right, cool. All right, and I'm going to just run through the list. This isn't all of the changes for Power Platform, but this is a subset of ones that I kind of cherry-picked to throw in here. And I think these are some of the high-level, really good changes that we've seen come out of Ignite for the Microsoft Power Platform. The first is Agent Builder. This is an entirely new way to create custom copilots or custom agents inside of Copilot Studio. And the new word for that is a custom agent, as far as I know. It hasn't been changed yet again. But if you wanted to build an agent in the past, you'd have to kind of have some pre-existing knowledge about what kind of topics you're going to configure, what kind of system topics you're going to turn on and off, or what kind of different capabilities were you going to give this agent, and how are you going to define all the other areas of knowledge and how exposure to that knowledge works. But with the Agent Builder, this wizard really allows you to walk through and through natural language, just describe what you're trying to do and what it has access to, and it'll try to stub out and build a lot of those components for you ahead of time. The next item here on this slide is generative cards. This is a really great, fast, and instant way to provide concise summaries of records when you're responding to user requests. So in the past, in Power Virtual Agent, or even like before this announcement, before this was rolled out, before Ignite even, inside Copilot Studio, if you were down inside of a topic and you wanted to provide some generative answer related to knowledge that a user might ask about, you would have to go and configure how that response came about, or GPT or the chat would provide a generative answer and just kind of write it up in a sentence. But now there's a new option to select, which will allow the agent to reply with a card, essentially an adaptive card, which makes the information summarized in an easy to use way. And it's also, it kind of can roll up some different information and different data. It's a much better way to display information to the user when coming back from a query. And the generative cards are automatic, so you don't have to configure the card. You don't need to go to the card building website where you can get the right formulas of YAML that'll create the card for you. You don't have to go and plug in all of your query logic as you would have to in the past. So it's a lot less work. It's very easy. You kind of just type up what should happen in that generative answer and then select summarize the records in a card for the user. And click of a button, it'll start to drop out cards instead of just straight text replies. Next item is next-gen processing for AI Builder. This really applies to anybody that might have been using AI Builder in the past as part of the Power Platform. So that was originally rolled out around the year 2017 when Power Automate and Cloudflows came about. It was one of the first forays that Microsoft had into AI, and it would do document processing. You can process images, you can process text. It had a lot of the earlier foundations of what we are now building on today using GPT. But AI Builder was rolled out before ChatGPT existed and before there were LLMs in widespread use. And so what Microsoft has done, and this big announcement from Ignite, is that they've created an updated AI Builder for next-gen processing. They've enhanced it and built it with GPT 4.0, and now it has multimodal support. So any organization in the past that might use 3 or 4 or 5 or multitude of AI Builder solutions in the Power Platform in conjunction with Power Automate or Model and Canvas apps now has the ability to kind of refactor that and bring it all up to speed in modern day GPT document processing that supports multimodals. So they can all kind of be collapsed into one if there's different types of media that was being processed in the past. Very small point here, there's now a native Snowflake connector for Power Automate that Microsoft has available for use. That's been a big request for a long time. Snowflake is a kind of a data solution. My previous experience with it from way back has a lot to do with data warehousing, but there is now a Snowflake connector for Power Automate, so just to make people aware of that. Repair with Copilot is a really cool new utility that has to do with robotic process automation. If you had desktop Cloudflows that were running, sometimes an old application can get updated, a user interface can break, a network connection is no longer available, or a port gets closed where it used to be open. All of these things can happen with desktop Cloudflows and robotic process automation, but to troubleshoot them in the past, a developer would have to go and step through each point of the process to find those points of failure or what was occurring. And now there's a new utility that Microsoft has made available, and that's called Repair with Copilot, where Copilot will go back through and look for any kind of issues throughout the entire chain of those robotic process automations and then supply recommendations on how to fix and correct those automatically. And the last little bullet point here that I want to talk about is Plan Designer. If you joined us a couple of years ago for You Already Own It, and we were doing drawings on napkins and taking photos and turning those into apps. This is before Copilot, before all this stuff. we were kind of playing around with these ideas. And then later on, about last year, if you joined us for a couple of sessions where we used natural language, and you could go to the Dataverse and describe a table. You can go to the Dataverse and describe an app or the Power App Solution Manager. You had to go to each independent area of the Power Platform, but you could interact with Copilot and natural languages to start to develop solutions based off of what you would type. This is a very cool and groundbreaking new feature, in my opinion, for the Power Platform called Plan Designer, where you can sit with a document and collaborate with a group of people, and you type out your business plan or a process design document, and you interact. The chatbot will, Copilot will come back and ask you questions about what you're writing as you're writing it. So, for example, if you're defining a time management application for users to get their schedule and swap shifts for a restaurant, you start with that paragraph, and then Copilot will say, well, what kind of roles of people will be using this app? And you say, oh, I have kitchen staff and management. And then it'll start to build the security roles for the Power Platform. It'll start to build the app, and it keeps coming back and asks you questions. So Copilot kind of has an idea how a design document should look. And where you leave gaps and you don't fill out information, it will come back and prompt you to then add in more information. As you work together in this chat experience with the Copilot solution and Plan Designer, it builds not just the Dataverse tables, not just a Power App or a Canvas app, not just a single component, but it'll go through the entire Power Platform and try to build you cloud flows, security roles, model-driven app, all sorts of stuff that might be of use for you inside of this new solution that you're building inside the Power Platform.
Cool.
So it's very awesome, cool. Jimmy. It's very exciting to check out. And I'm done now, Ken. So
all right. Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. That was super cool. Thanks for the quick update. Hopefully Scott's still around. Scott Derby, are you around to talk to us a little bit about Windows 365 Link and why it's something of interest?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Ken. So this is an interesting new device that Microsoft has released. As many of you guys know, back in 2021, Microsoft announced the Windows 365 cloud PCs. Well, this becomes that natural extension of that. This is a small device that is about 4 by 4 inches for a nice footprint on a desktop, but it provides full support with the USB-A, C, HDMI, Ethernet, and power connectors. So what it allows us to be able to do is really connect any peripheral natively into a Windows 365 cloud PC. It also has a lightweight OS, but it doesn't have any local data or local admin rights. So it provides a much more secure footprint, but it has a local processing power to really give some high performance into video conferencing with Teams, other scenarios, so that it really have a nice full first-class experience when doing real-time collaboration. So a couple items to note on this one. They've really invested a lot from a security perspective, so it's designed to be auto-enrolling with Intune and Entra ID, so you have the ability to be able to provide full MFA with either Authenticator or FIDO2 keys. It's going to support passwordless authentication, of course, with Entra ID. It's also going to support conditional access and multi-factor authentication into your Windows 365 virtual machines. So really a great scenario for use cases where you might have either shared workspaces, hot desks, maybe in call centers, reception areas, as well as maybe in financial institutions where we see a lot of scenarios where they're deploying virtual instances out to things like tellers and banks and such like that. So those are some of the initial use cases. We also see some unique possibilities in the future for things like secured research and labs, because now we have the ability to be able to support peripherals as well in a highly performant environment. So interesting new device. Couple items to note of this one though. The Windows 365 Link only supports Windows 365 virtual devices right now. So unfortunately, it does not support Azure Virtual Desktop or things like Microsoft DevBox. In addition, right now, it is only supporting Windows 365 Enterprise, Frontline, and Business that's deployed in the commercial cloud. So for those of us that are running in sovereign clouds such as GCC or GCC High, unfortunately, it is not available for us yet, but we'll keep you guys in tune to what's happening with this one. So
excellent. Appreciate it. All right. So I think we're coming to an end here, and would love to hear some questions from folks. As always, thanks, Scott, by the way. As always, I put some helpful links here. We've done a lot of research preparing for this presentation today, so please take advantage of the time and the research that went into these links that I'm sending to you, because they will get you up to speed a lot faster. Along with these links, there's links in the individual slides of things that I found that were really that were just incredible resources to understand and get me up to speed quickly on these items. So definitely take a look at those. We're going to open it up to questions. I think there was a question in the chat window about, I think it was about a Copilot question about knowing that they saw it on their desktop, on like their hardware. I think that's just really a quick button to launch the new BizChat Copilot, interface. Really, there's nothing there, except I will tell you that I've recently gone to New Outlook, obviously, and I've got Microsoft 365 Copilot. I would say, look at your RAM. You definitely need to have some RAM. I got 16 megs, and I would say 32 would be much better. Every time I turn on my camera, I have a short dead time of about a couple seconds, that my processor's taxed or my RAM is exceeded. So just heads up there. But I'm not sure if that answers your question. Any other questions from the audience? We'd love to answer them. We've talked about a lot of stuff today. Feel free to come off mute if you have any questions. Or,
in your links, are you going to have something that explains a little bit more about those SharePoint advanced features being included in the Copilot licenses and how that applies? Is that just for the users that have Copilot licenses, or is that tenant wide? How does that work?
No, it's available. I think there's a one on the control system here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, right here. Check that link out right there, and it talks all about what's provided by SharePoint Advanced Management. It'll be available in your tenant, so you could use it for any of these things, not just because it doesn't know who has Copilot and which are tied to what sites that they're using in SharePoint.
So do you have to have at least one Copilot license?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for some of those that are kind of, there is some of the reporting capability, the data access governance reports, those have always been available for people that also have 5 series SKUs as well. But yeah, the one Copilot is technically the minimum buy-in to get the full suite of SAM.
Yeah. Great question.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Well, we are wrapping up right on time. If you think of a question, by all means, please reach out to us. We'd love to know how today's session was for you. If it was helpful, not helpful, please we're going to launch the poll here in a second. Save the date for January 23rd. Not sure what the topic's going to be yet. If you have a topic in mind that you'd love to hear, let us know. We'll get it worked into the year's schedule to help satisfy what you're looking for there. This is just a reminder that if you're not receiving the newsletter or getting our email, please reach out to us, to Kim Snyder or the YouAlreadyOwnIt at go-plant.com email address. And we've added some new benefits here. So if you're interested in M365 briefing or Azure OpenAI discovery to talk about use cases in Azure, please contact us. These are free workshops that we're happy to have with you if you're thinking about launching Copilot, M365 Copilot or Azure OpenAI use cases. Please, let's talk free workshops for you to start getting you on your way. And as we wrap up another year, it's clear that Microsoft's committed to pushing the boundaries of AI technology and innovation and giving us an AI platform that can be secured, controlled, monitored, and grow adoption. It should be the goal of every organization to understand what's available from a platform perspective to get the most out of your new tools. If you need help, please reach out to us. We've got sessions to help you out there. These announcements from 2024 are just a glimpse of what is to come, and I can't wait to see how these tools will shape the future of work. If you want to see all the announcements at Ignite, please go to the Book of News. That's a full end-to-end, announcements of everything that was talked about at Ignite. Also, our CTO, Andrew Kagan, wrote a nice blog. There's a link to it in the useful links. With that, happy holidays, and here's to a productive and secure Microsoft 364 environment in your new year. That's a wrap. If you'd like a follow-up on any of these items we talked about today, please reach out to us. Again, happy holidays. Thanks for joining us.